Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mahmud Maina MPD as the lecturer of Educational Research course. Let me introduce myself. My name is Karista from PBI 2. In this opportunity, I would like to explain about my research. The title is Improving Student Speaking Skills Through Storytelling at 7th Grade Student of SMP IGM Palembang. Okay, so for the first, I'm going to explain about the type of research. So, the type of this research is quantitative research. According to Sugiono in 2012, quantitative research is a research which is used to examine specific population or samples, and sampling techniques are generally carried out randomly, and then the aim of the research is to test hypotheses that has been established. So, why the title of this research belongs to quantitative research is because the aim of this research is to know or to test the hypothesis that I have made before, that is that storytelling can improve student speaking skills. And then I'm going to explain about the method used in this research. As we have learned in our previous meeting, there are several methods that we can use in doing research. For example, here I put several methods such as survey research, descriptive research, experimental research, and correlation research. And in this research, I use experimental research. What is experimental research? Experimental research is a research method used to find a particular effect or treatment. Sugiono in 2012. So, the reason why I use experimental research is because I would like to know whether the treatment that I give to the student that is teaching by using storytelling has an effect or affects the improvement of student speaking skill in the classroom. And then I'm going to tell about general research type. So this research is intervention studies. Why this research is intervention studies? This because the primary methodology used in intervention research is the experiment. So it is in accordance with the method that I explained to you just now. And then in intervention studies, a particular method or treatment is expected to influence one or more outcomes. So here, the treatment is teaching students by using storytelling, and then the intended outcomes is the improvement of student speaking skill. And then problem of the study. Actually, there are many difficulties faced by the student in speaking English. Of course, this difficulty is motivated by two factors. The first is internal factor and the second is external factor. So, what are the internal and external factors? Internal factors are factors that comes from the students themselves. For example, lack of vocabularies, lack of confidence, and then fear of making mistakes. And then the external factors are factors that come from outside of the students. For example, the environment. For example, English is not widely used in speech community, so it becomes the external factors why students have difficulties in speaking English. And then the research problem of this research, the research question of this research are the first is whether the implementation of storytelling as a learning media can improve student speaking skill, and then the second is what is the effect of using storytelling on improving student speaking skill at 11th grade students of SMP IGM Palembang. And then the objective of the study, that is In accordance with the problem of the study, the objective of the research are: the first, to identify whether the implementation of storytelling as a learning media can improve student speaking skill, and the second is to identify the effect of using storytelling on improving student speaking skill at 11th grade student of SMP IGM Palembang. And then, significance of the study. The result of this research is aimed to give some contribution to English teaching and learning, that is, to the teachers and students. For the teachers, this research is expected to be useful to support teaching and learning activities as an effort to improve student speaking ability, and then to inform the teacher that storytelling strategy is one of the ways to improve student speaking ability. And then for students, this research is aimed to improve student speaking ability through applying storytelling strategy. And then literature review. This chapter presents several theories related to the research topic. This review is intended to provide important background information to support research and discussion of findings. So in this research, the literature review consists of speaking and the method used in this research, that is storytelling, as well as the related studies or the previous studies related to the topic of research. Okay, so here are the contents of this research, this literature review. The first is definition of speaking. The second is components of speaking. The third is the importance of teaching speaking. The fourth is definition of storytelling. And then the fifth, the advantages and disadvantages of storytelling. And the last is teaching speaking through storytelling. And then types of sources. In this research, the researchers used all types of sources. They are general reference tools, primary sources, and secondary sources. General reference tools are sources that the researcher often referred to first. For example, article, book, document, or anything which deal directly to the research question. And then primary sources. Primary sources are publications in which the researcher report the result of their research directly to the reader. For example, Journal of Educational Research or Journal of Research in Science Teaching. And then secondary sources. Secondary sources are publications in which the author describe the work of others. For example, textbook. And then we move to variable and hypothesis. Variable is anything that is determined by the researcher to be studied so that information about it is obtained and then the conclusion is drawn. And then hypotheses are predictions about the possible outcomes of the research. So this research, there are two kinds of variables in this research. The first is independent variable and the second is dependent variable. Independent variable is also called as free variable. Independent variable or free variable is a variable which influences another variable or influence the dependent variable. And then dependent variable is a variable which receives the influence of the independent variable. Independent variable in this research is storytelling because storytelling influences the dependent variable, that is student speaking skill. And then the hypotheses of this research are: the first, storytelling can improve student speaking skill, and the second is there was significant difference in speaking skill of the 7th grade students of SMP IGM Palembang who were taught by using storytelling and those who were not. Then population and sample. Population is the entire group that you want to draw conclusion about, and the sample is the specific group that you will collect the data from. So, in this research, the population is 7th grade student of SMP IGM Palembang, and then the sample is 30% of the population, that is 30% of 7th grade student of SMP IGM Palembang by using simple random sampling. What is simple random sampling? Simple random sampling is one in which each and every member of the population has an equal and independent chance of being selected. So, how can we select the 7th grade student of SMP IGM Palembang randomly? That is by using table of random numbers. And then instrumentation. This research used two kinds of instrumentations. The first is test and the second is questionnaire. Speaking test is used to measure the student's speaking achievement by considering the elements of speaking such as grammar, pronunciation, fluency, and accuracy. And then questionnaire is used to know what is the student's perspective over the use of storytelling in learning speaking? And then we have to know the terms validity and reliability. Validity refers to the appropriateness, meaningfulness, and usefulness of the inference a researcher makes. And then reliability refers to the consistency of the information obtained. Reliability finds whether a test given to the same respondents a second time would yield close or the same result. And then, in order to know the test and questionnaire used in this research are valid and reliable, the researcher used test-retest method. The test-retest method involves administering the same test twice to the same group after a certain time interval has elapsed. So, the tests were tried out first to the 7th grade student of SMP IGM Palembang who don't become the sample of this research. And then internal validity. What is internal validity? Internal validity is defined as the extent to which the observed results represent the truth in the population we are studying, and thus are not due to methodological error. When a study lacks internal validity, one or more alternative hypotheses exist to explain the outcomes. The alternative hypotheses are referred to by researchers as threats to internal validity. There are many kinds of threats to internal validity, such as subject characteristics, morality, location, instrumentation, tasting, history, majority, attitude of subject recognition, and implementation. But there are control threats to internal validity. The first is standardize the condition under which the study occurs, such as the ways in which the treatment is implemented, the way in which the data are collected, and so on. This helps control for location, instrumentation, subject attitudes, and implementation traits. And then the second is obtain more information on the subject of the study, that is, on relevant characteristic of the subjects, and use that information in analyzing and interpreting results. This helps control for a subject characteristic trait and a morality trait as well as maturation and rejection traits. And then the third is obtain more information on the details of study, that is, where and when it takes place, extraneous events that occur, and so on. This helps control for location, instrumentation history, subject attitude, and implementation traits. And then the last is choose an appropriate design. The proper design can do much to control these traits to internal validity. Okay, I think enough for my explanation. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.